Hello, everybody. Welcome to Man Cave Mondays. This is Dan. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. We've got a really interesting and special broadcast going on this evening. I'm going to bring my brother Andrew in because he's here with me as well. How you doing, bro?
What's up? I've been traveling a bit, so I look very tired because I am very tired.
That's reasonable. That's a reasonable way to look and feel, I guess, if you've been traveling a lot. We've been wanting to do this video for a while.
At least a month, yeah.
At least a month since we did our initial unveiling of the cartridge that you all see in the middle here. And as you can probably tell by the title, we got a lot of questions about this cartridge.
Yeah, so
a lot of people making a lot of really weird offhanded kind of comments that, I mean, maybe some of them were legit and true.
Oh yeah,
and sure. Some of them, most of them, were probably more in the out of maybe a little bit of ignorance, kind of going, "Oh, I have that. I have that."
Yeah, I think a lot of the questions were out of like, I own a Donkey Kong Country cartridge.
Right.
Yeah, like, do I own a $2,000 cartridge? Like, so if you want to know the backstory, about a month ago, Daniel bought a cartridge at a local game store that is not a normal Donkey Kong Country cartridge. And I, on MN Retro Gamer, which is my social media tag for TikTok and Instagram, posted a video, and it kind of blew up a little bit. It got about 100,000. It's a little over 100,000 views. And there were a lot of people that made comments that were like, I have a $2,000 cartridge. What? You know, they're just like freaking out. And it's like, well, hold on, guys.
Right. They're like, some people are going, I have several of those.
Yeah. You want to,
or they're like, I've got a whole box full of those in my basement, you know, or whatever.
Yeah, so it's like, no, you own a very common cartridge that is Donkey Kong Country, whether it's the normal cartridge or the Player's Choice cartridge. But if you want to bring it up, there is another version of that cartridge, which is the competition cartridge.
Right. And we wanted to make sure that this was very, very clear in the differences.
Yeah,
there are a lot of differences. Yeah, and it is very possible. It is very possible that someone may have a rare cartridge in their house or in their basement or something that was handed off to them when they were, you know, I mean, who knows the stories behind how these things end up coming out of the woodwork, right? So
what is the story of why this is a cartridge?
Yeah, and so that's the really interesting part that I personally really like, because these things were only available at Blockbuster.
But it's not even that it was available at Blockbuster; it's that it was a competition cartridge.
Right. So that you're right. So it wasn't like you could just go and check this thing out.
You weren't rent it. It wasn't a rentable thing. It was, they had a competition in 1993 at Blockbuster, and then after the competition ended, you know, through us posting stuff, we've heard some people say, "Hey, I was an employee at Blockbuster, and I was able to receive one of these cartridges."
Right? Yeah.
We've heard some cool stories where, like, "Hey, I was able to receive one of these cartridges, but the majority of these cartridges were dispersed after the competition through Nintendo themselves."
Right.
For about $35.
And they came with, and here's the thing, I ended up tracking this down. They came in a green case.
Yep.
Green hardcover case. As you can see, this does not have the insert.
Yeah, there's
the insert, but the cover. There's like there's an artwork that goes around this thing. I was trying to find, if any of you know where I could find just the artwork.
Gosh, we could figure out how to complete.
I love that, and complete the whole set, because I've got the case, I've got the cartridge. I'd love to get the artwork to go with it.
Send it to me.
Yeah, right, exactly. But no, seriously, like, this was something again, just to kind of rehash a little bit of, and for those that missed it, like I didn't know this was a thing. Like I had no idea this was a thing.
Yeah.
So that made it all the more crazy.
Let's start from the beginning from that. So you let anybody who is new to this whole thing, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
You go to a local game store, and what happened?
Adjust my mic here. So I go to a local game store. I actually, again, I didn't have Donkey Kong Country as part of my SNES library. And I've always wanted it. I don't like Donkey Kong maybe as much as you do.
It's my favorite.
I know. So it's impossible to say that I like it as much as you do, because that's not possible. But I didn't have a copy of it in my collection, and the first one is my favorite of the three. And I was like, well, I kind of feel like I need one. So they had 2 copies there. And to go back to this screen here and look at the different ones that are here, they had this one and this one. These are the 2 that they had available. This one was $14.99.
Yep.
This one was $19.99.
And you
still got the receipts to prove it if you need to.
I would pull, if you have the receipt close by, pull it out.
I do. Yeah. I put it in that green case.
Yeah. Pull it out. And you looking at these 2, when you talked to me, you were like, well, I don't want not the full game. I want to be able to play the full game. That's like what you told me.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't know that it was a whole deal, but here it is right here. Donkey Kong Country, 2 copies. And the prices are actually less on here.
Right.
Because I had like a 20% off coupon that I used for the whole purchase.
So you bought F-Zero and Lion King also.
Right. I got F-Zero, I got Lion King, and all of those were 20% off. So they came in at $20, and that turned out to be $16, and then $15.99 was $11.99. $11.99, that's the competition one right here. So I didn't know it was a thing. So then I text you, and I'm like, well, first I'm like, okay, I want to look this up and see what this is.
Yeah, you looked it up first before you text me.
And I'm like, wow, this could be it turned out, oh my God, this could be a really big deal.
Well,
but I'm super skeptical of it too.
Well, before we even get to that, you made the wise decision to buy both of the cards.
Buy both of them. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Because in the past you've said, I've had chances to buy like something and I decided, I'm not going to. And then you didn't, and you regretted it in the past.
Totally regretted it. I had a chance to buy the sealed, still in cellophane, brand new copy of Tekken. Like at a Goodwill. Like Tekken, the original Tekken, sealed for PlayStation at Goodwill.
For how
much? It was like $25.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know. That's in that moment, you're like, I don't have $25 really.
Yeah,
like, I mean, really don't.
At that point, it was like, oh, that's a lot for an
old but for a used game, and then I'm like, well, it's brand new, but it's really old, but it's Tekken. Maybe it's worth something. And I didn't have my phone, I think, at the time to look it up or whatever. And it turns out brand new sealed copy of that goes for buku bucks, and I've been kicking myself ever since. So from that day forward, I've basically been like, well, I'm going to err on the side of caution and get it. And if I can't, if it's not worth much, it's not worth much, and whatever, we'll move on, So anyways, back to Donkey Kong. So I bought both of them, and I text you and I go, this is not a drill. Like, I actually just bought this.
And I said,
is this legit?
I was like, no explicit is being said, but you need to effing call me right now.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, I'm driving. Let me get home, and then we can talk. Yeah. Which led us to do, I think, was it even that night? We're just we got to go on and do this like right away. It was a very
we need to make something happen tonight.
It was kind of like, are you free? Am I free? Like, we need to crack this thing open and see if it's for real. Yeah. Let's do like an actual unboxing thing, live reaction, kind of whatever. So, so that was the last video. And then you kind of took clips of that.
A couple videos based off of that.
Yeah.
The one like went semi-viral on TikTok. It didn't really have that much traction on Instagram, but we had a lot of people making comments. Some people being like, "Oh, it looks too clean. It's fake."
Right, and I totally get that. It looks very clean, and especially compared to
very nice. Yeah,
right, like compared to even the original actual like
give a
the main copy version. Like this one's got like scuffs on it. It's kind of dirty.
Show the full close up on
the back. Like of the original Donkey Kong, like this thing is kind of scuffed up, right? This one,
show like just your camera angle of that, so we can all
super clean. So I get it. I very much get it.
Yep. So
like
compare that one to the other one.
Straight up brand new. Right? Like you look at the back, especially. That thing's...
But the thing you have to realize is that like the Donkey Kong Country like normal copy was probably played a lot more.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing: reproduction copies do exist.
Yep.
And for the sake of this video, and to bring some clarification to people, I actually went out and bought one. And for those who are maybe a little upset about buying reproduction cartridges, this is a whole nother conversation. But I intentionally went out and made sure that I bought one from someone who was very upfront about making sure you knew you were buying a reproduction cartridge and not a real one.
Which you'll even see on the label that the label...
They went out of their way to make sure that it looked extremely clean and extremely professional, and yet it still was different.
Yeah, it's
in the right areas so that you knew, one, it was identifying it as a competition cartridge version of the game and a ROM that's inside. So when you plug it in, you're not like, why isn't this regular Donkey Kong? But if you know what the competition cartridge is and you know the real one, you'll notice the differences. And we can get into some of those differences here in a bit, but for now, right off the bat,
let's just look at the different cartridges.
Right. So we've got, let me see here if I can get, I'm working with a totally different mic today, so I apologize.
Sound great.
These two, again, original on the left, competition cartridge on the right. The most obvious difference between the two is in the right corner, right? Yep. Like the right corner. This one's just kind of the regular Super Nintendo. This one says, go figure, competition cartridge, right? And then as you pointed out on the last video, when you look at the very, very top,
it's very different.
It's extremely different.
Yeah.
If I can get my camera angles right here. One tells you exactly what it's called, Donkey Kong Country. The other one just says, hey, this is not for resale.
Yeah, resale rental of the game pack is
prohibited. And that was specifically because from what I was looking at, and it kind of makes sense when you think about it, for those that were working at Blockbuster, these games were in drawers. The labels were facing up.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
They didn't want the name Donkey Kong labeled on the top. They didn't want the name of the game even labeled on the top. Because they're stacked in drawers like this, easy to identify. Oh, there's Donkey Kong. Boom, grab it, go. That's not what they want to do. They want to make sure they know for sure they don't grab this one and put it in one of those cases or whatever, in case it gets mixed in with all the other cartridges and games that they have that they're renting out. So if having another case wasn't fun enough and obvious enough, but you know, stuff gets mixed into cases, you know, into stuff all the time, obviously. So
test number one is looking at the front.
Looking at the front. Yep.
You see competition cartridge. Test number two is looking at the top. And you're like, okay, that's totally different.
That's different. And at this point, we're looking at what is different and what is not, and what we're supposed to be seeing on a legitimate cartridge. And we'll get to the difference between this and the reproduction one in a second. But because this thing's checking all the boxes as a legitimate.
Because there are people that are like, well, you could just have a reproduction copy.
Right. And we'll get to that in a second. Once you crack it open, you'll see for sure, like without question.
Yeah.
It's totally different. But here's one of the things that's a little different on the back that's interesting, that most people were not, at least in the comments and the conversations we were having, even really aware of. But it's a little subtle detail that when you know to look for it, you instantly recognize how legitimizing it is and how very different it is from a regular Super Nintendo cartridge. Because most Super Nintendo cartridges, the patent and everything like that for it, if you'll notice in the really, really cruddy version of the original Donkey Kong, up in the top right corner, it says made in Japan, right? It's got all this same stuff, important, power must be on, like all the warning stuff, the model number, the patent pending information, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But the vast majority of Super Nintendo cartridges were made in Japan.
Because Nintendo is a Japan.
Right. Nintendo is a Japanese company, right? For this particular set of cartridges, because it was being done at Blockbuster Video, which was in North America.
Yeah.
You'll look at this, and it is 100% the exact same sticker, except, bam, made in Mexico.
But that's a good thing that it says.
And that is a very good thing, because when we transition over to the competition cartridge reproduction, right? Finding a sticker that says made in Mexico, like those aren't.
But even like looking at the top face value of this, it's way.
You'll notice the difference between the two for sure.
It's way too glossy. Like the sticker is
black,
shiny,
right?
It's black.
It's black.
It
looks very, very. It's like this weird kind of marriage between the original Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Because this isn't really truly black. If you get a real close look at it, it's like a dark green
in the background.
Right?
Yeah.
This is black. It does have competition cartridge in the corner, but it's not the same. It's totally different, right? So it's very different. But then when you look on the top, again, the person who made these, they wanted to make them very clean, but also very clear that it's not a legitimate, cartridge, and be very upfront about it. This one just says Donkey Kong Country competition cartridge. If you see anything that says Donkey Kong Country competition cartridge on the top of the cartridge, that's not a legit cartridge.
So here's the question.
Because all the legit ones had this warning on the top.
Yeah. So here's the question. What if there's someone out there that does all of the things to make it look
oh my god,
possible as an actual original competition cartridge, right?
Right.
On the outside. The front looks the same, the top looks the same, the back looks the same. It says made in Mexico.
Somehow they found a cartridge sticker label that says made in Mexico.
Or they made
pretty sure these are the only. Maybe they made one. Yeah, you're right. Maybe they made it. But
like
let's
beyond
say
then
let's say they did that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what do you do at that point?
Well, at that point we did what we did in the last video. You crack it open and see what's different inside.
And do you have a picture of the original?
I don't need to. I'll just open them up and show everybody.
Well, it would be good to show a comparison photo of what an original cartridge inside looks like of the competition.
Oh, we showed that on the last video, but I figured
if you can find it quick, it might be a good thing to do again.
I could try to do that if you want. Sure, I'll let you yammer on for a little bit about
Donkey Kong
something.
Is my favorite
because I need time to be able to look this up. Hold
on. The other thing that we haven't talked about is Donkey Kong Country Player's Choice, which I
Yeah. Do you have yours there? Did you find it or no?
Well, no. So I started a new job, and with my job, I travel a little bit more than normal, and so I just got back today from St. Louis at like noon ish. And then once I got back, I had all of these other responsibilities of being a father, getting my kids from school, getting them, to a snow camp and all that. But um, anyway, I do own a copy of Donkey Kong Country, the first one. So after like 1,000,000 copies got sold, they created a thing called Player's Choice where you can get it for Mario Kart, you can get it for Super Mario World, you can get it for Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong Country 2, I think Donkey Kong Country 3, F-Zero, I'm pretty sure, is another one.
Yeah, Star Fox, I think also.
Star Fox for sure is one.
Yep.
It's basically like after they sold 1,000,000, it's kind of the same deal as like PlayStation with what is PlayStation's version of that? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Player's Choice. It would be
No,
the platinum hits.
Platinum hits, right?
Yeah.
It's the same idea where
Right.
1,000,000 copies got sold, and they're like, "Cool, we sold a ton of these. Let's try to reach a deeper market and sell it for like dirt cheap." And so a new copy of it got sold for like it was usually like $20 instead of
between 20 to $30. Yeah, I want to say that back then they were $20, and then they bumped it up, I think, with Nintendo 64.
But instead of like paying $60 to $70 for a game, you were paying like half-ish the price for the same game, but just a different label.
Different label, different version. If there were any bugs or tweaks too, at times they would patch it and then re-release it so that it would fix it. So a lot of the time, if you're doing competitions and that sort of stuff, the Player's Choice version of it is technically the least broken version oftentimes if there were any issues with it. So
the interesting thing is, like, if you're in the original Xbox world and you like doing LAN parties, if you have I don't even know what Xbox's version of Platinum Hits is, but if you have an Xbox, like say like Halo or Battlefront, right? You can't LAN party an original version of Battlefront.
No, you can't. I tried that with Battlefront. It was a pain in the butt. Yeah.
I don't remember what the term is, but whatever Platinum Hits is.
Yeah. So Xbox, I think, now that it's coming back to my memory, Platinum Hits was, I think, Xbox, and then Player Select or Player Platinum. I can't remember which. I don't know what
the term is, but whatever the term is,
yeah,
you can't LAN party the two because they're different versions of the game.
Right. And the interesting thing was when the backwards compatibility of, like, for example, the Battlefront games came out for the Xbox One.
Right.
I had both copies of the game.
Yeah.
And I remember I think it was for your birthday. We came up to hang out, and we were going to do this massive LAN party.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the Platinum Hits version wasn't identifying any of the matches on the network.
Yeah, we were trying to do like 5.
And that was with 360, and that was with original Xboxes. And then when I went back home and installed both of them on my Xbox One, it installed it as 2 separate versions with the exact same picture.
Yep.
Which was as confusing as you could imagine.
Yeah. So that was kind of like a frustrating, like, I went to the pawn shop and bought as many copies because
I know.
Because this isn't that far away, but like this was a time where you could go to the pawn shop and you could get Halo 2 for $1, $2.
Right. Yeah.
Now you can't even find Halo 2 at the pawn shop because they're just like, we don't want that here anymore.
Right. We don't want that. No.
But back like 3 or 4 years ago, that was the deal. So Anyway,
so this is let's take a look at this here. So this is a copy of both Star Fox as well as Donkey Kong competition cartridges. This is what the inside looks like. And we'll crack it open here in a second, but this is the legit inside of what the cartridge looks like. You'll notice right there it says copyright 1993 on the left side over here for the Donkey Kong one, and it says the battery is covering it up, but it says Nintendo right there. It's very much a legit copy. So let me go back to.
That's not the only photo of that. Inside.
No. You can go. Yeah, you can go on. You can go on eBay. You can go on tons of other websites to show exactly what it looks like.
There's a lot of documentation of like legitimate cartridges,
right?
And what the inside looks like, and so
right. So, I mean, do you want to talk through this while I'm? Because I can't have the microphone directly in front of me while I'm doing it because it's on this stupid thing here. So,
I mean, are you opening up? I don't feel like we need to even open up the original copy.
I mean,
if you want to open it, go for it.
I don't mind doing it at this point. I'm just going to be very delicate about it.
Yeah, okay.
But I could do it. Yeah. People want to see that, so we'll do that. That's fine.
Sure, yeah, let's show the difference between the original copy and the competition cartridge, and then you're going to open up a repro copy and how different. And this is just one version of a repro. Another repro could look completely different, but here's the deal. Like, all of the repros don't look like the original competition cartridge. And so anybody who is hanging out and doesn't have the full story, Daniel was at a retro gaming store. He found these two copies.
Well, these two.
Oh, right. He found those two. He bought both of them, and he very quickly learned that the one that says competition cartridge is extremely rare. And like me, my favorite system is Super Nintendo. I'm a huge Super Nintendo nerd, and Donkey Kong is my favorite franchise within Super Nintendo. And so these competition cartridges were only released to Blockbuster as 2,500 copies were made and dispersed throughout North America, as like a competition. And after the competition happened, the majority of them were sold through Nintendo for $35. But now they're going for about $2,000. So
just the individual cartridge,
just the loose cartridge,
yeah, which is it's crazy.
Yeah,
and it's even more crazy when you know that I got it for $15 or
well, you got it for less than
$12, whatever that was, $11.99.
After you just
so as you can see when we open this up, oh my god. Loosen that side up a little bit more. Take that out. So we'll flip this up. This is when I freaked out and started screaming.
Yep. Because you compare that to the other photo.
Right. And oh shoot, I closed it. I closed out of it. But you can see it. It's very much the same thing. I can give you a better look at what it looks like on the side here now with
it says
Nintendo on the side, 1993, right?
I mean,
we even looked up the numbers on the chips, right? Like the actual serial number and stuff in the chips, and
it's all the
100% legit. And I'm excited right now because it looks like one of our good friends, Alberto, is joining us.
Yeah.
Are you here, Alberto?
He's part of the crew.
He's in the background there.
I don't see
him. I want to push him in if he's not ready to chat yet. Maybe he's finding a microphone or something. But there he is. We get him in. Hey.
I don't know if you guys can hear.
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm so glad you were able to join us for this, man.
Man, it's been a long time since we've done a stream together.
It's been a long time,
and you're doing it from your new place too, right?
Yes, sir.
That's exciting. We like everybody moved over the course of the last time we did stuff. And like I'm in a new house, Andrew's in a new house, Bobby's in a new house, you're in a new house, Christian's in a new house, everybody's in a new house. So
Daniel, I feel like I can talk for a little bit. I feel like you should find that photo.
Okay. Yeah, I'll find it.
Just to compare it, because
people are people and they don't believe what they see unless they see it. That kind of thing.
People don't believe that you got that for $15. I still don't believe that.
I have a hard time believing it too.
I have all of the evidence, and I still have a hard time believing it.
I totally understand. Yeah. You hear stories like that all the time, and you're like, no way that happened.
Oh, yeah.
And then you think,
it happened.
Okay, maybe it did, but why didn't it happen to me? Right?
You.
It always happens to the people who have no idea what the hell they're coming across. Yeah. So. All right, so let me see if I can find this thing.
All right, well, while he's looking that up, Alberto, what are your favorite Super Nintendo games?
Top 3. This is gonna upset you. It's gonna be number 1, Zombies Ate My Neighbor. Number 2.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, that's a great game.
Yeah. Number 1, no hesitation. Number 2, Goof Troop, and number 3,
Goof Troop, dude.
Goof Troop is
that is
so
such
good.
a hidden gem, dude. Nobody knows.
Super good,
dude.
I have a nostalgia when it comes to anything old. It's what did I play with my sister growing up, and it would have to be those two first, and then finally the last one would have to be Link to the Past. It was the first Zelda game I really played by myself for the first time. I played the Game Boy Advance port, and then I revisited it on the SNES. A great port. It was almost just like I didn't miss anything, and
I've got no issues with this.
Yeah, that's my top 3 SNES. No question.
I mean, like, there are other games that, like, myself, I got more nostalgia for, but I have no issue with those 3 games.
That's perfect. I think everyone always picks like Super Mario World and Super Metroid and Super Donkey Kong Country and all that kind of stuff, which are all great games. Those are the classics. But I mean, like, what are the ones that made the Super Nintendo for you? And those are the 3 for me: Zombies Ate My Neighbor, Goof Troop, Link to the Past. Those are the 3.
They're good choices, dude.
Alberto, do you have a Nintendo Switch?
I do.
Did you end up getting the Zombie Ate My Neighbors / Ghoul Patrol?
Absolutely. Are you kidding? When you compare about like how much, when you compare how much it costs a cartridge, like a cartridge.
Oh, the cartridge is super expensive.
Nowadays and everything.
I already
owned
the sequel. Yeah, like I already owned Zombie Ate My Neighbors on Super Nintendo and Genesis, but I didn't own Ghoul Patrol, which, like, in all honesty, everyone says it's not as good as the original.
Yes, it is, though.
Yeah, it is.
Everyone says that, like, Ghoul Patrol
it's different.
Is, like,
it's different, but it's
maybe the reason why they say it's not as good is because of how expensive it is.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But,
maybe.
But like Ghoul Patrol is like stupid expensive compared to Zombie Ate My Neighbors. And so when that Switch like limited run came out, I was like, day one, I'm buying this. There's no way that I'm not getting this. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
so
I bought it digitally and physical. So like that's just I really love that game a lot.
That's great, man.
So if we can, let me see if I can.
All right, so that
swap between the two here. This is what I have right here. Right, this is it.
Yep.
And there you go.
And are you able to side by side at all?
I mean, I can. I'd have to remove us, but yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, There. So that one's, well, where'd it go? Where'd it go? I want to do this. No. There. There we go. I mean, Andrew, Alberto, you guys aren't experts, but after Andrew freaking out about this with me, I did a crazy deep dive into all things to try and make sure this is legit.
Like, I feel like I'm like, I just knowing what this cartridge was like somewhat of an expert.
Right.
Then after
more than me at first, yeah.
Yeah, but then after that, like, I mean, all I need is like looking inside and then comparing it to original cartridge and
then playing it and running it, and it works.
Yeah, and it works.
We can get to later if we want.
But like looking at like even just the capacitors and like how everything is lined up, literally everything is in the same exact spot.
Right. And so here's the thing: you do that, compare it to.
Yeah, open up the other one.
Compare it to this one here, and here's the really funny thing. So this one was $19.99.
Yeah.
Right. After shipping.
$19.99.
This one was $19.99.
Oh, not $9.
Are you thinking $19.99 the year? No.
Yeah, I was
$19.99. Right, the original one. That's how much that one was. After shipping and everything, this one cost me $30. This is actually the most expensive one of the bunch.
The fake one.
And it's the fake one that, to be honest, I will probably be using this to actually play competition cartridge matches because I don't want to risk ruining the other one. It does play. It plays just as good as the other one. But you'll know instantaneously when we open this thing up how different it is. But Andrew, if you want to grill Alberto some more about something while I'm...
Yeah. Alberto, were you here when we were talking about what the competition cartridge is?
No, I just joined in.
Okay, so
what is it? Is it very similar to like what the other retro games did, where it's like whoever could beat stuff the fastest or something like that?
Yeah, so 2,500 cartridges were made, and they were sent out to Blockbuster.
About that. Give or take.
Yeah. They were sent out to Blockbuster in North America. And basically, like, I mean, I grew up in a really small town where we didn't have a Blockbuster, and I wish that I was a part of being able to like show up to a Blockbuster and be a part of this. But
that'd have been amazing.
Yeah, but you could go to your local Blockbuster, and there was a competition where there was this specific cartridge with a Super Nintendo and a controller. And basically you hit start and you have 5 minutes.
You don't even hit start. You turn the machine on and it instantly starts the game with a 5-minute countdown going.
Yes, that's what I mean. Sorry. You
don't have to hit any buttons. It's just
you
boom,
just
there it
turn
goes.
the system on, and then you 5 minutes, get as many points as you can. There are 8 levels. I don't know if they told people that there's 8 levels, but
they didn't. I don't think they did.
Yeah, but there are 8 levels across the competition cartridge.
Try and go as far as you can in 5 minutes, and
but it's not only going as far as you can; it's getting as many points as you can, and you get that through collecting bananas and killing enemies. And so,
I don't even know if I've really found out what it was a competition to wean people out of. Like, what are they getting from this? Were they trying to find the world's greatest or something, or what was the deal?
I think it was just a promotion for the game.
Okay.
Honestly.
It wasn't. Well, here's the thing. It was in '93 that it was taking place, and Donkey Kong original one came out in '94. So it was kind of like a promotion of the Super Nintendo and a lot of these big titles. I think they were wanting to push, like Star Fox, like Donkey Kong, right?
Because there's another competition cartridge for Star Fox as well.
Right. There was one of those as well. Yeah, and we saw that in one of those pictures. So, but we saw that in one of those pictures. So, but here's the big massive tell. You'll notice this right away. And something interesting here. One of the things that in a lot of reproduction cartridges will be a dead giveaway is when you look at the screws on the front, they're going to be like just Phillips screws or something like that. But like I said, the people that I got this competition cartridge from, and the reason why it was $30 is because they go out of their way to make sure it looks still like super clean. So they actually use the same kind of hex safety screws and stuff for regular Super Nintendo cartridges. You'll notice on the back, it still has the embossed Nintendo logo on there and all of that. So it's a really clean looking reproduction.
Yeah.
And if the company itself or the
cartridge is like not nearly the same.
Right. Competition cart, like, but it looks clean though. That's what I'm saying. Right. Like it doesn't look super cheap. And if the company and the people who are making this were not as upfront about, hey, this is a reproduction cartridge, it probably could fool somebody. And so that gets into some of the conversation we can have a little bit later about whether these things are valuable and good to have in circulation or not. But you'll notice right away that this thing, and again, I didn't twist enough on this one. There we go. Totally different cartridge.
Yeah, I mean,
it's totally different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
But here's the interesting thing. They did a good job identifying and labeling for themselves Donkey Kong Country. And I'm guessing F is, I don't know what the F is for, but it probably identifies it as something separate from a regular Donkey Kong Country.
Like game
again, over here, Donkey Kong Country, it's got these notes. So,
but like you can look at the battery, like even just comparing the batteries, right? Like the original battery is a Maxwell.
Yeah. And this is, I don't know what that is because I can't read Japanese. Like it's totally different.
And it's like it says lithium. Like lithium was not even a thing.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing that you were asking me about, Andrew, too, that I haven't tested yet because, to be honest, I've left it in a case and haven't really done much with it since. But whether or not it's saving scores with the battery or if I'd need to replace the battery or not, I haven't checked that yet.
We should check that tonight.
I'd be open to that.
Yeah, because what I'm trying to get at is there could potentially be saved scores.
Oh, yeah, dude.
If the battery, like, because
if it's got like world record score on there somehow.
I mean, I don't know if
that'd be awesome, dude.
Well, it might have a world record score.
That'd be amazing.
But I myself, like, I have a Super Mario World, and I played through the whole entire game, and I was streaming it, and then I went back to like stream playing through like recollecting anything that I didn't collect.
Right.
And the battery died within that time.
Oh.
And so I was like, oh no, everything that I did, I just lost. Which, I mean, Super Mario World is like, it's already a fun game and I'm fine to play it again. No problem. But
yeah.
So I got to swap the battery on my Super Mario World. But like a cartridge like that, I would hold on to that original battery even if you swap the battery. Just because
of the authenticity of it, you think, or what?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, because it's.
I mean, to be honest, it's been such a long time ago. I find it very unlikely that the battery has hung on to the data for that long. But
I do have some Super Nintendo games that the battery still works. So
really?
You might still.
I mean, I guess I'm looking at it more in the sense of like I work in IT, so
yeah,
I'm thinking of it more in the sense of like the BIOS of a computer and the motherboard and like all the like just very, very, very rudimentary core data.
Yeah.
That is, for the longest time, computers had one of these batteries in them, and after a while, they just went out.
Oh, for sure.
And you had to replace it and then reset the BIOS. Like it was a whole thing.
Right.
But now that I'm talking through this out loud, that is for devices that are probably on all day.
But like that
and keeping that data all the time.
Barely played.
And this thing is barely played, and there's barely any data on it compared to a computer and a mother, like all of that sort of stuff. Probably not nearly as much. So maybe
have some saved files on that. So I would love tonight to find out if there's any saved files. How
would you know though? That's the thing.
I wish I would have done some research before starting tonight.
Because when I did turn it on and I did play it, it wasn't like, I don't know, maybe the battery isn't good if it's not, because I feel when the time is up, it just kind of, the game just stops and then you have to hit the reset button.
But I feel like if I remember correctly, you could still pull up information of like who is the top players.
Really?
But I don't know.
Yeah, maybe there's one of those kind of like codes. There's always like those reset codes that like the event organizers were.
The competition cartridge equivalent of a Konami code or something, basically. Like plug it in, get the secret menu kind of thing.
Yeah.
There might be one of those, and I mean, I unfortunately don't know it. Also, what's really interesting, you bringing up about the batteries really reminds me that like a lot of people talk about when it comes to cartridges, the enemy of cartridges is moisture, water, cracks, or anything like that. Honestly, it's the battery itself. Once the battery dies out, that's something that you just cannot. You can replace it to make.
You got to replace the battery, but still, it's. So
it's
now
not a battery anymore, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as we cracked this thing open, I immediately went out and bought a hard case to put the thing in because I'm like, I'm not risking that. But so here's a question, and I'm going to go grab a few examples here just because I find this to be a very intriguing conversation. But what are your guys' thoughts? I'll pull this out here quick.
Before we go, do we have any? I'm not paying attention to this. Do we have any comments that we need to respond to? I think you're muted. You muted yourself.
I muted myself because I was using the phone microphone for a little bit. So.
Yeah.
And then we pulled that camera out, and now it's not usable. So, so the main question that I had, though, that I want to have with you guys is about reproduction cartridges.
Sure.
Yeah. And this kind of is also a conversation that dabbles a little bit into the world of ROMs and emulation and all of that. Like there's all kinds of ethical, debates around whether that stuff is legit or not. I've got arcades here that have Raspberry Pis in them that have literally thousands of games. So if that gives you any indication on where I stand on that debate.
If you want me to give a quick example of like certain things that I'm seeking after even just today. So if you know the YouTube channel, Did You Know Gaming? Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it. Yeah. Yep. I've heard of it.
So they do like incredibly deep dives into like the gaming history of tons of franchises.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they did a deep dive on was Capcom in the NES era had a fully working game based upon the California raisins.
Oh
What?
Lord!
No way!
But here's the thing:
I want to play that now.
but it's the California
I totally
raisins.
want to play that.
It's basically the California raisins Mega Man. Like,
Mega Man style?
It's basically
What?
Mega Man California raisins.
That is so bizarre. I have
Yeah.
to know what
And
that's
like
like.
Super random.
It's like
Very random.
But like it's completely built. It was completely finished, but it never went out to market. And so that's where I am someone that's like anyone that like eventually the ROM got dumped, thankfully, and I'm personally myself looking for just like a reproduction copy of the California raisins because there are like there's like a prototype out there and there's like a couple of special editions that are like crazy stupid amount of money. But like I'm happy to spend $20 on a reproduction cartridge of the California raisins that's like a Mega Man clone.
Right.
To be able to have that in my collection for 20 bucks, like
right.
Yeah.
And that goes to, so I'm going to walk away from the camera because I'm going to go grab a couple things real quick and then I'll just because I want to show you guys. But Alberto, is there any games that you've run across that you've heard about that are so rare you will never play them if it's not on a ROM or some kind of reproduction cartridge?
Yeah, I had that thought earlier today. Literally earlier today. You know how at the end of every single year they always do those wrapped, Nintendo does it, Spotify does it, and everything like that?
Yeah,
Well,
right.
my most played game last year somehow was Fire Emblem Three Houses. I played it every day at lunch, no matter what.
Sure.
And it's a game that's supposed to take only 50 hours tops. I took 170 hours in that game. That's how many hours that Nintendo said I logged into it.
I
So
still
that's a lot of
play
lunch
that
breaks.
game.
I absolutely loved it. I love Shining Force. It's the Shining Force that I've been wanting for a long time. And the way that the series Shining Force evolved over the years, I didn't like it. But the way that Fire Emblem, this is my first Fire Emblem game I had ever played, I was in love with it. The story, the branching storylines, the path, the fact you can do like a lot of the like conversations and training opportunities with your class. Anyway, though, I put a lot of hours into that game, enough to where I'm like, I really want to get more involved into this series. Well, if you look online, the next two highest rated games for the series is Fire Emblem Awakening, which is a little bit accessible and a little bit affordable on the 3DS. It's at $40. Thankfully, my sister had a copy, so I'm borrowing it. And after that is like the Path of Radiance on the GameCube
like
that goes
$50 minimum.
Yeah. I just saw it at a disc replay for $3.99.
Yeah.
The complete in box and everything. And that's exactly the thing that Dan was asking about.
Yeah.
That's a game that I would love more than anything. Right now, during my 2023 lunch break game is going to be Fire Emblem Awakening. I got my 3DS in my laptop bag. Been playing it every day and loving it. But at the same time, I cannot shake the feeling of me wanting to play Path of Radiance. But I can't at the same time know is like I could buy an Xbox Series X for that same price almost.
Right.
Or I can get
Exactly
one
right.
GameCube game of Fire Emblem. It's like,
I was at Alberto, you mentioned disc replay. I was there just the other day and I texted Andrew a picture. They have the and they're really good about like knowing when something's legit, which is awesome. But they have the original PlayStation copy of the Batman Forever arcade game.
Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty rare. Yeah.
And for those of you that initially are thinking Batman Forever, the movie sucked, the game sucked even more, you're probably thinking of the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. Like, yes, that game kind of sucked, right? The arcade game, total like straight up like beat 'em up brawler, like final fight, and all that kind of stuff. Awesome game. Like, it's a lot of fun. Totally over the top, just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Over $300 for the thing for one game, right? the only way that I've ever played it, the only way I ever actually played it was hacking my PlayStation Mini to dump a bunch of ROMs on it and play it that way. And that's how I know it's an amazing game and I'd love to play it. I never got a chance to see it in the actual arcade, so that's the only way I've ever been able to play it, you know?
There is this quote that I read. I can't remember where I read it or where I heard it, but I used to collect a lot of games a few years back, and I loved collecting games. And there was this one YouTuber or someone that wrote it. I can't remember, honestly, I can't remember, but they said, have a hobby where the hobby can pay for itself. And that's when I started self-reflecting and really thinking,
it's a fair,
do I have the heart?
Yeah.
It's like, do I have the heart to sell my Gravity Rush Complete in Box PS4 game that can easily fund another Rare game? The answer is no. And maybe game collecting isn't the route that I should be going, because at some point I might have to part ways with a certain one to get to another one. And that might be the case. And that really might be the case for expensive games. Like, I can sell Soul Silver.
If you really want to get into it,
yeah, like my DS Pokemon Complete in Box, Soul Silver with the Pokewalker and everything, going for 100, 150, 200.
Right.
That's like really close to Panther Radiance, but I don't have the heart to part ways with it. Maybe game collecting authentically might no longer be the route for me, and that's kind of the barrier I'm at, where I have.
That's very introspective there, Alberto. I like that.
Yeah, I struggle with that myself. Like, I own over 950 physical retro video games.
That's it. Well,
that's it. Is that what you said, Alberto?
That's it.
That's all you got, bro?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Well, okay. I guess that's including modern games with like
Xbox
Switch,
and 360
Switch,
and PlayStation
Xbox,
and all that stuff. Yeah.
PlayStation 4.
Yeah.
But I mean, Switch is. I probably own like 65 Switch games. Like, I own quite a few physical Switch games. But still, like, there are some games that I'm like, oh yeah, I could sell that and I could get Earthbound today. But I'm like, you know what? I can play Earthbound on the Nintendo Switch online.
Which is emulation, by the way. They even did some deep dives into the actual code that they're using. Nintendo is using emulated
100%.
versions.
Yeah,
it's all like
it's all emulation. Yeah,
it's an emulated version that is available for like tons of people to play for free. And they looked at the code that was on, for example, the NES Mini and the Super Nintendo Mini.
Yeah,
they're all the exact same files.
Totally.
Exact same files. They're just packaging them into an officially licensed Nintendo product.
The thing that I am like coming back to, and like even to like literally today, if you know who like Metal Jesus Rocks is, like huge YouTuber, he put out a video today about like his PlayStation 1 collection, and it's like over 250 games, which in retrospective of like PlayStation full-on collection is like pretty small, because I think
that's a big library of games. Yeah,
it's a big library of games, but like I think the PlayStation had like over 1,000 games, but like still 250 is quite a bit. But like even in watching that, I was like, oh man, anytime I play a PlayStation game, I play it on my PlayStation 2. And it's not emulation, it's playing it on the actual disc.
Right.
Like, but in retrospective, I'm like, oh man, I kind of really want to bust out my PS1 and like just play it on that.
Like
because
God intended, quote unquote.
Yeah. Like still, like the PlayStation 2 controller is the closest thing to the PlayStation 1 controller. It's pretty much the same thing, but just black instead of gray.
Yeah, you're talking about the analog.
Yeah, with the analog, right?
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. There's just something about like, I kind of really want to bust out the PS1.
Well, here's the interesting thing about that, bro, is we never had a PS1.
Oh no, we only had a PS2.
We only had a PlayStation 2.
PS1 games.
So we never really played it on the
But the reason why I'm loving the PS1 is when I got really into retro gaming, and like I picked up Metal Gear Solid, I picked up gosh, what are the other PS1 games that I really loved? I mean,
Resident Evil 2.
All of the Resident Evil
Crisis, right? All of those.
Crisis I picked up. I mean, like not in the world of like gaming a big deal, but to us growing up very poor
and nostalgic, and we never got a chance to really play them.
There were certain games like there were certain games that were like important to us that really in retrospective anyone else is like, why would you
not even remotely important to anyone.
But like I still kind of,
except for Shatterhand, which I'm still pissed about, by the way.
Well, you're only pissed about it because it got lost because I bought my own copy of it.
I know you did.
So
where's my copy? I'm saying, where's the copy that I had entrusted?
I have no idea. Mom and Dad sold it. Okay, and now Alberto's like, it's time for.
It's like, oh boy, the Golson boys are at it again.
But anyway, so what I was trying to say with
the
PlayStation 1 was like, I like within the past 5 or 6 years really fell in love with like PS1 games that were like, I mean, even Blasto.
Which ones though?
Blasto. I mean, I've always loved Crash Bandicoot. I've always loved Spyro the Dragon.
Yeah. A lot of those games though, here's the thing. A lot of those games have the remastered, updated versions that play way better.
Yeah.
And they look so much better.
But like there's still something to me that's like, oh, I want that jankiness.
I don't want jankiness. So here's the thing. For when it comes to original PlayStation games, there are some that hold up incredibly Well because they stuck
like Castlevania,
Symphony of the Night, and like Final Fantasy, like they stuck to.
Well, if I'm being honest,
even Final Fantasy VII, the polygon stuff, like,
you look.
The game's amazing, but
like I never played Final Fantasy, and I remember when it came out, and everyone was like freaking out about it.
You're like, what is this?
And then when I got the chance to play it, I was like,
what is this?
Wait a minute. Once you get out of a battle and you get into the overworld, you just look like super wimpy compared to
look like such a weak ass kind of
Sure. Like compared to like in the battle, how like beefy you look.
Or on the freaking cover, we've got this sword that's literally like twice the size of him he's swinging around.
But like I've played through a lot of games, but I still feel very embarrassed that I've never gone through Final Fantasy VII.
So, speaking of Final Fantasy VII, this brings me to another interesting little caveat or whatnot regarding the emulation / ROMs, reproduction cartridges, all that fun stuff. I'm going to bring this picture up here. This.
Sure.
Right here.
I'm all for that. That's cool.
I can mute my other camera's microphone. Like, these are all reproduction cartridges. On some level, all of them are either a slight hack to update or adjust the game, or a massive hack of another game that they put on real playable hardware that works on all the original stuff.
How is blue and red any different than original?
So, okay, I was just going to say, you're probably wondering, okay, so what's the deal?
I mean, I understand green because green
was not available in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't available in the U.S. It was only available in Japan. And someone created a ROM that made it all translated into English and made it the Game Boy Color scheme.
Sure. Okay. That's cool.
Then they did the exact same thing with red and blue. So when you plug these in, these are the exact same game, but they are with the Game Boy Color sprite palette and all of that sort of stuff, right? So when you plug it into a Game Boy, and I have a Game Boy Advance that I put a LED screen on, and it's all lit up. So they look beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
So they have the updated, so like the updated sprites, because green had older sprites.
This still has the older sprites. That's the thing that's really interesting about it. Okay. Like I've done stuff where I have a Game Boy Pocket, and I've got a Game Boy Advance SP, and then I've got the regular Game Boy Advance that I modded. All of these, even though they're ROMs, I still have a original, genuine Pokemon Yellow Pikachu, and all of them work with trading Pokemon back and forth. Even though they're ROMs, they still work with the original cartridges. And so when you're swapping between the green and the original, Pikachu one, it's so funny because you see it look one way on the green one, and then once it shows up on the yellow, it's the American version.
It's different.
It's like, what the heck? It's so funny and so bizarre to see how the coding of that actually works. It's kind of cool though.
Because green and red, I think, were the first ones to come out in Japan.
Right.
And the sprites were older.
They were older. They looked.
They didn't look very good.
They weren't as good. Yeah, they updated them for a reason. So, but and I brought all this up because you had mentioned Final Fantasy VII. Somebody,
I'm fine with that.
The original Final Fantasy engine, if you will, and built the entire storyline of Final Fantasy VII to work and play like an NES version of Final Fantasy VII. And it looks awesome. It plays awesome. It's perfect, right?
So a remake
on it, The funny thing is remake on it.
A demake, yeah, right.
Oh, does it say demake?
No, it says remake.
Which is funny because there was a remake of Final Fantasy VII.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes people, they do like throwbacks to modern games and they call them demakes.
They call them demakes, which is technically what this is. I would say that is definitely a demake because they're downgrading.
I saw somebody do a demake of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which just came out in November, but they did it in Pokemon Gold and Silver art style,
that would be fun to see.
And I saw the clip of it. I thought it was beautiful. I was like, I'm like, isn't nostalgia hitting me? Yeah, but at the same time, it works so well, that style.
Right.
That late 90s, early 2000s style works sometimes.
Yeah, I saw someone doing that with getting Portal to run on an N64.
Oh, I saw
they demade Portal to work on an N64. I'm like, that's a cool idea too, right?
Yeah,
so in that side of things, so here's the other thing, like, right, and Metroid 2, this is another one where the game itself still 100% the exact same game, but they put Game Boy Color scheme into it.
Yeah.
So now when you actually play it, you can tell the difference between a lot of the stuff that you need to see and know and do. Like the original game, they had a really tough challenge being able to walk through a Metroidvania-esque style game on such a small memory.
Which is why they made it.
And having all like basically 4 different shades of the same color to distinguish the difference between all of it, right?
That's why they
really hard to play.
That's why they made a 3DS remake of that game.
Right, exactly. But this thing looks amazing when you put the Game Boy Color color palette on. It looks so good.
That's
and
cool.
it's really fun to play. It's a lot easier to play too, to be honest with you. It's easier to identify what's going on where and all of that. And then you've got some like these that are just fan-made games based off of the original games. Like this is one where
we're not going to go into full detail on what these games are.
No, they're definitely more like let's just say one of them's, you could tell some like,
it's
I don't know, like some 19-year-old college kid or whatever thought, oh, this is real funny because I can put curse words in a Pokemon game, you know. This one is actually really good because it's basically what if the entire world of Pokemon started to get infected like zombies, and so you're starting to have regular Pokemon, but then you're also facing off against infected Pokemon and trying to keep yours from getting infected. Like it's a real interesting twist on the genre and the concept, right?
I'm behind that. That's cool.
And then Doom 2, this did come out for the Game Boy Advance, but there was no blood in it. And the like there was only so much memory that could be used for a lot of the effects and the graphics and stuff. So somebody went in and updated it to make it look better and be playable with more blood added to it, because it's Doom, right? Like how do you play a Doom game without having any blood whatsoever? So that was fun.
Is Deadpool basically Ninja Gaiden?
Yes. But here's the thing. Maybe we should do like a thing. Andrew, I know you and I had talked about you coming down to visit sometime. Maybe we should do like a live stream sometime and just test some of these out so people can see how much time and effort is put into actually making these legit games, because this is definitely not Ninja Gaiden.
In what way?
And yet it definitely is still Ninja Gaiden. Like it is a totally different story, totally different sprites, completely different world, totally different level design. Like it's using the core game mechanics of Ninja Gaiden for sure, but they've completely overhauled it from the ground up. So now you're using actual weapons that Deadpool has canonically in his arsenal. There's a whole different storyline, and it's him breaking the fourth wall, and it's showing text, and there's stuff about chimichangas, and there's like, it's a whole totally different experience. It's not Ninja Gaiden at all. And yet, if you like playing Ninja Gaiden and you enjoy the humor and the fourth wall breaking and the comic kind of sarcasm of Deadpool, you're going to really love that, because it's got both of them together. It plays like Ninja Gaiden, but it's definitely not the same thing as Ninja Gaiden. So it's really neat. And then this one here, like, to be honest, I found this was available. Pokemon Yellow.
Yeah, it's just yellow.
It's just the yellow version, and they were able to make it work on an NES cartridge. And the only reason why I got it was because I wanted to play Pokemon on a big screen instead of a tiny screen. I wanted to play the original, and I didn't have a Super Nintendo or a Super Game Boy or any of that stuff. So I'm like, well, I'll drop whatever it was, $12 or whatever to get this, and it plays great. You know, it's the same game, all the same stuff, but it's fun.
My response to that is you should get a Super Nintendo and you should get a Super Game Boy.
That's like combining that with the game itself, $150 probably total on plugging all that together versus like $12.99 plus shipping.
You sell me the Donkey Kong Country cartridge.
I knew that was coming. I was waiting for
$150.
$150.
And then you can buy your Super Game Boy.
Right.
And we're good.
But so the reason why I brought all of these out, though, wasn't just to be like, hey, look at all these cool things, but to kind of give everybody else that's watching an understanding of where the line is for me when it comes to reproduction cartridges. Because I do have another example here, and this is an example that of me getting ripped off.
Oh, I haven't heard about this.
You haven't heard about this? It wasn't a huge game. But it was one that I wanted to play. It was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan on Game Boy.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Not a pricey game, not a rare game, anything like that, right? The actual game itself, probably like $8-10 at the most. You probably find it used for like $5.99 or something, right? I decided, hey, someone was selling it off Facebook or whatever. I'm like, cool. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Let me get that game for my Game Boy because I never got a chance to play that when I was a kid. This is the one that they sent me. Right? It looks at first glance exactly like the real deal. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Look at that. It says game. It doesn't say game, Nintendo game. Nintendo Game Boy at the top. It doesn't say that. It just says game. Flip it over. It's got a tri screw. It doesn't have the hex screw.
And that's
totally in the wrong spot too. Also a dead giveaway, right? After shipping and everything, I spent, I want to say it was like at least $12. I want to say $15 for this thing.
Did you like compete it at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I contested it and I got my money back and all that because they didn't say it was a replica cartridge. But here's the thing. I don't know officially whether or not the seller knew it was a replica cartridge.
Oh, yeah.
Or if they didn't know and they were just trying to sell it. When you stick it in, it plays just like a regular game, right? And I do have the original. I did end up finally getting the actual thing.
Right.
Right. So let me get the.
Yeah, compare them.
This is the original here.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is a reproduction. You'll notice the color on the plastic's a little different.
So,
but
it seems like every replica is a little bit more shinier.
Right.
Because it's like a brand new label and.
Right. But here's the thing. This was definitely made intentionally to look exactly like the original.
As much as possible.
As much as possible. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not like this is an experience that is going to be rare and hard for people to find authentically.
Why are people even making a fake of that?
Right. That's the problem that I have with that.
Yeah.
That's where I start drawing the line when it comes to the reproduction stuff. We don't need reproductions and fake cartridges made of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Like a 10 to 15.
Fall of the Foot Clan.
Right. Yeah.
Why are there reproductions of this in circulation? If not to fool people and rip them off. That's the only reason it's there.
But like,
right?
What I'm trying to figure out is like, how much did you buy that for?
This one?
The fake
one. After shipping, I spent probably about between $12 and $15.
Right. But like, how much is an original copy?
The original copy, like $8.99, and I bought it at Disc Replay, Naperville, Illinois.
What I'm trying to figure out
didn't have to pay for shipping, right?
Why is it worth it to these people making fake cartridges?
Well, because people go shopping online and they don't want to go out to a store anymore, and they're like, "Oh, it's just right there. It's $8. I'll just buy it then." And then it's shipping on top of it. So,
but why is like $5 worth it?
Because it's five times like a bajillion, right? Like, here's the thing: this stuff is not it's not being made in the United States, Andrew. This is being mass produced overseas and in large quantities. Like, there's boxes of things like of this exact game going out in circulation. People are buying them up to then try and resell them and put them out there in circulation over and over and over and over, right? It makes me upset when it's games like this that don't need to be reproduced, because the games themselves are not hard to find and they're not expensive. It's not like It's not like Donkey Kong Country competition cartridge getting a reproduction of this, because the actual experience is legitimately different than a regular Donkey Kong cartridge. And
But
most people are not
honestly-
going to have $2,000 to be able to experience this, right? So whether it's on the cartridge, or if it's, I'm sorry, I'm getting closer to my microphone and the headphones are giving feedback. That's my bad.
No, I just got text messages. That's what happened.
Oh, are you getting messages? Oh, I thought anyway.
No, I just got text messages.
Whether it's the ROM or itself that you can get for free and just start playing it on like a Raspberry Pi, or if you want to experience it on the original hardware, I think it's legitimate that things like this are being created for unique experiences that are different, that weren't available to the general public.
Yeah.
And are hard to find now. Or reproduction cartridges like what we got here, where they've made some kind of significant contribution to improving it for the experience for people now, like regular Game Boy to now a Game Boy Color experience, or completely modding it to be a different game. That's different than ripping people off with crap like this, you know?
Oh, go ahead, Alberto, and then I'll go.
I was gonna say my introduction to the repro market was two events. One, I went to a flea market and they had a Chaos edition of Pokemon. I didn't know it was a repro cart. But I saw Chaos, which is the villain from Sonic Adventure 1.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was him on the front cover of the Game Boy cartridge. I was thinking, wow, the crossover I didn't know about. I didn't have Wikipedia.
Right.
I didn't know. So then I got older, and that was just in the back of my mind. Anyway, now I'm in high school. A buddy of mine hands me a hand-me-down copy of Pokemon Soul Silver. So I thought. So then I tried playing it on my DS. It won't work. I played my sister's DS. It won't work. I look at the cartridge, and I'm like, the pins look fine. The picture looks fine. I can't get it to work. I'm gonna see where I can get it. Maybe I could bring it to GameStop. I bring it on over to GameStop just to see what the trade value is. They told me that they'll give me a little over $40. I don't know if it was some promotion or whatever it was. They'll give me a little over $40 for this Soul Silver DS game. He doesn't even test it. He doesn't put it in any system. He just says, "I'll give you $40-something." And I go, "Oh yeah, sure, that's fine." So as a high schooler, I take it. I paid $0. I went ahead and I sold it. Then I'm a little older, and I get my own copy of Soul Silver on, ironically enough, that same year for my birthday, an authentic brand new copy of it, because I kept talking about how the one I had didn't work. And then I noticed the printing of the cartridge. I'm like, why is Lugia, the Pokemon, on the opposite side? And why is the background painted a different color? And why is the pins look a little different than what I remember what they look like? I looked it up. I didn't know, but I was gifted my very first repro cartridge.
Right.
And then I sold it unbeknownstly to a GameStop employee who gave me full credit, and it went back on the shelf. Someone for sure bought it. Someone for sure paid $70, $80 for it. I feel awful. I benefited from it, but it was like an honest mistake.
Yeah.
And sometimes the repro market is not even for someone else to be making a profit. It can really just be down to not knowing all the information. I didn't know Sonic Adventure Battle Chaos, was a repro thing. I didn't know my Lugia printed on the opposite side was a repro thing.
Right.
So that was my unfortunate introduction. So it's always had a sour taste in my mouth, but at the same time, I can see both sides of it. But
yeah, that's my issue with the whole situation is like, honestly, like the cheap stuff, I'm just like, I don't understand why you would make a copy of that, but okay, fine. If you're gonna make $5 on the deal, and if someone gets suckered, then they got suckered out of $5. Like,
yeah.
Personally, that's where I'm at with it. But my issue is people like, I don't have a problem with like the person you bought the Donkey Kong Country cartridge competition cartridge from.
The repo one, the reproduction one.
They clearly showed like this is the only issue that I wish that cartridge had on it is that it said reproduction on the actual label.
Yeah, that is the one final step further they could have done to make it obvious.
A lot of repros,
or at least put it like on the back or something like that.
Like a lot of repros go that extra mile and like put repro on it. Because I can get behind the idea of like, I want to experience this on original hardware the closest that I can with what I can financially make happen, right? Because I don't feel that like 20 to 25 to 30-year-old games should have some sort of paywall to experience something, right?
I can see that.
Like that is,
and for some of these games too. I'm sorry, I just cut you off. That was rude.
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking, for some of these games, like the actual hardware, the actual stuff, like it degrades eventually.
Yeah, right.
It goes bad. And for some of these rarer games, you are eventually going to reach a point where they are not going to be played on original hardware unless it's some kind of emulation that's taking place.
Right.
Which it's just going to be the nature of things as we continue moving on. So it's a very love-hate kind of thing. Like,
it's funny to me that like the people that are like hardcore purists, that sort of like mentality is it's not even just like a mental thing, but like legitimately will probably die with them.
Right.
Like when those hardcore purists pass away is roughly the amount of time where like this sort of physical media is no longer,
it's just gone.
Yeah.
Like our kids, for example, Lily is playing Super Mario Brothers, the original or whatever. I do have the original. She has done it, on the original stuff. We have played that. But her experience, for the most part, of playing all this retro stuff is absolutely through the Nintendo Switch and the online stuff, or through the emulation Raspberry Pi stuff that I have.
But also, I will say, like, I'm a big, like, I'm on TikTok a lot, and I stream on TikTok a lot, and I stream Super Mario Brothers 3. And the other day, like, even with the physical, I plugged in an NES system to my HD, like.
It looks terrible.
It's not even like how it wasn't even how it looked, but like I was trying to show my friends, like, hey, I can speed run Mario 3 in like 15 minutes.
Oh, dude!
Right?
Not on an LCD.
But when I played it on my HDMI, sorry, I wasn't connected over HDMI. I was connected over composite, right? But when I played it on my flat screen TV, the latency,
huge. Yeah, the refresh rate and the hertz on LCDs are so out of sync with.
Like I was always like, oh gosh, people are just like bitching about stuff. Like they should just shut up, right? But like I experienced it because I was so used to playing Mario 3 on a PVM TV with like zero latency.
Right.
And streaming that and like, speed running Mario 3 on that. And then I like went to speed run it on my HD TV and I was like, I can't do this. Like this is
what's going on.
Is not the same thing. Like I would hit jump and like I would experience jump,
a whole half a second later. And it's not. That throws your game off big time. Yeah, it does make a difference for sure.
But anyway, we need to get back to like the Donkey Kong Country and the two different cartridges. And so you've got the competition cartridge. Can we plug it in and?
We can. I'm gonna have to go off of my laptop here and switch over to just my phone. But we.
I want to see like how we can look up if there's. I know there's a way to look up high scores on that. Like I know that there's a way to do that. I just don't know how to do it.
Well, let me. I've got a little handy mobile thingy here because I anticipated you asking me to do that. So
you know me so well.
Yeah, let me figure this out here. Hold on.
All right. Alberto, while we're hanging out, so you got your top 3 Super Nintendo games. Are you a big fan of the N64?
I am, absolutely, yeah. It was my first video game console ever. I think that unfortunately made me make a lot of bad financial decisions.
You had that before the Super Nintendo?
Yeah, I didn't have the Super Nintendo until college.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I went N64, GameCube, PS2. I think I went backwards on everything. I think the Xbox One, the original model. After that, I was like, I want to experience a lot of older stuff. So after buying the original Xbox One, then I bought an original Xbox, then a 360, then an SNES, then an NES, and I was like, I don't know what is it about that console that just made me really made me think about the games I miss.
That's a big deal. Like, you don't hear that story a lot. You always hear people being like, yeah, I had that, and then I had that, and then I sold that to get that, and then I sold that to get that. But you kind of did it in reverse.
I definitely did in reverse. I think it's because I know that like we're close in age, but just far enough where at the same time like the experiences are a little different. And like in college, the big talk a lot was retro games, and like my generation we find certain generations to be retro, and original Xbox was considered retro when I was in college, and that's kind of crazy to think because it's like, that's my late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, don't even bring that up to Daniel. He's gonna disagree with you on
that. My opinion on that. That's a whole nother conversation. I thought we had this conversation.
That's a whole nother.
Haven't we had this conversation?
I don't think we've had this on stream, but that's a different night.
But that's definitely what led me to start moving backwards, and it's not because of like some sort of weird hipster movement thing. It was just genuine. It was a genuine thing. Like, well, now that I'm older and have a part-time job and I have some expendable income, why not spend it on some old games? And back then, the retro gaming, I remember going to a disc replay, Super Mario World. I bought it for $4.99. I bought so many games so cheap. I mean, retro games were retro games. Now retro games are collectibles at this point. They really are. So
you could get it for so cheap. Like my biggest regret is like growing up in Brainerd, and there was in our local mall there was like a retro game store, and I was given the opportunity to work at this retro game store but like they couldn't legally pay me my age, but they were willing to pay me in exchange for taking games. And I like my biggest regret is not like pushing hard enough to like have my parents let that be a thing that I could do. Because I could have gotten so many games for so cheap compared to what they go for now.
I get what you mean. There was a retro games shop at like this mall that was by my aunt's house. We visited my aunt every weekend, and I remember they had every Kirby game on the original Game Boy, every N64 you could think of. Like max price was like $15.
Right, they were so cheap.
Yeah, and I really regret not asking my parents more times back then. Like, hey, don't buy me Panda Express again. Whatever money, I'd rather starve. Just put the $15.
I'd rather starve.
Put my kids' meal money into Kirby's Dreamland or something on the original Game Boy instead. Just let me get that instead. I really regret that kind of stuff. But hindsight's 2020, as they always say.
Oh yeah,
right. So let me point to everybody here. Andrew, you were talking about the worst possible way to play.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to give you a hard time about it anymore.
And I'm not disagreeing with you, though. I mean, here's the thing. It is HDMI connection out. It is a reproduction thing, but it's not emulating the cartridge. It's reading.
No, yeah, so this isn't the worst way. Like, if you're playing it on a Retron 5.
Retron and the emulation, the lag on its own is terrible, right? So it's not as bad, but again...
play. I don't even know if a competition cartridge would play on a Retron 5.
Right. So, but here's the thing. So it's the Gamers Tech 16-bit HD HDMI into flat panel TV, and I'm playing it with a Hyperkin wireless controller. So the layers of lag possibilities are pretty significant in this particular setup. I do have a CRT, like some old, really crappy, Sony one or something like that. I don't know. I got it for free. That's what I usually play retro stuff on, but I do have it here too because I like having it on a bigger screen. But just so for comparison's sake, everybody is wondering, hey, what's the difference between the original Donkey Kong and the competition cartridge? Well, let's
give it full screen. Give us full screen.
I need to do that. Let's see here. There we go. So I'm going to turn the power on. We'll step back. This is what the original Donkey Kong Country looks like.
Oh gosh, it's so glorious.
Got the music playing, the whole deal. It's got the Nintendo Presents. Everybody remembers this. The awesome soundtrack. Right. Donkey Kong Country, hit and start here.
You do need to make that 4x3, I'm just going to say, but
I know, but I like filling in my entire screen. Anyway. Mr. Purist over there.
I was surprised we made it this far.
I like it fitting.
Mentioning aspect ratio.
Okay. I like it fitting the dimensions of the screen if possible. And it's not, here's the thing, this particular machine is not stretching it like crazy either. It's actually doing a good job. Anyways, so this is, everybody knows this, right? This is Donkey Kong Country. This is what Donkey Kong Country looks like. So that's what it looks like when you load up Donkey Kong Country. Now,
wait, you don't have an eject button for your cartridges? Wait, what?
That doesn't have an eject button. No.
Wait, what? You don't have an eject button? What? Wait.
Are you making fun of me again?
I feel like
you're welcome to gift me a Super Nintendo anytime you want.
I just feel like being the hardcore purist of Super Nintendo.
I know you are. Which is why this exact moment right here is like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
The rarest Super Nintendo cartridge ever.
Well,
in one of the jankiest setups ever.
Yeah.
But so Alberto, you were wondering what exactly is the difference? We were kind of explaining it to you, but here's what happens.
The game just started.
Boom. And it just jumps right in.
5 minutes.
Countdown's going, and that is that. That's it, right?
I wonder if this cartridge, I don't know the history of anything for this. Was this cartridge put
and one of the ways to verify that it's authentic, and if I can get my thing all accurate here. There we go. Originally on the original Donkey Kong Country, this was a little cave that you could go into, right? You can't go in. It's totally blocked. You can go up here. You could go into the DK cabin. There was save stuff and all kinds of you can't do that either, right? It just, boom, goes right in, top left corner.
And you
I'm looking at the camera more than I'm looking at the TV. That's what happened there. I suck at this game too, so. But you'll notice the timer is continuing. Yeah. I'm guessing the battery has something to do with that. I died with the timer.
No. Once the cartridge is in, the battery doesn't. The battery's only about save. So it's kind of the same thing where, like, if I'm playing Super Mario World, if I keep the game going, it's gonna create a quote unquote save file
Okay, gotcha.
until I turn it off. So, like, what I need to do is replace the battery in my Super Mario World because it's no longer saving.
So you'll notice I'm not really getting any points for collecting any of the Kong name.
Yeah, but you get points for collecting.
I get points for collecting the bananas. I get points for taking enemies out. Right? You want to do a speed run, this is the way to do it.
I want this cartridge so bad.
You can have the repo one if you want.
Ah, shut up.
All right. But yeah. So keeps going through. We'll go the next.
I'm trying to find a way to
2.5 minutes here.
I'm trying to find a way to sell all.
I'd like to see if we can test out whether or not it saves the data. That's the thing.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Because if there is a way that it saves the time and the scores.
Have you ever gone through the full 5 minutes yet?
Find if there's like a record or whatever. I have.
Okay.
And it just like the game basically just stops and freezes up, and you have to hit the reset button on the console.
All right, so I'm gonna do a little research on how to. There's a way to find the high scores.
Look it up, dude. Look it up.
I was trying to say that, like, I am trying to find a way to sell all those projectors that I got in order to pay you for this. Oh, you died.
See, so here's the deal. I die.
You have 49
and starts me back at the beginning of that level.
No, at the safe spot.
Yeah, like whatever that, wherever that checkpoint thing is. So that aspect of the game is still legit. It doesn't start you all the way over at the very beginning.
Right.
You know.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, my mind is still being freaking blown right now watching this. I wonder if you collect Kong, do you get more points?
That's a great question. We'll have to try that on the next run here.
Because now, like, you just are in a brand new level. Like, it doesn't show an overworld or anything. Like, you're just
right. Oh, here's the K. Well, I can do it in 50 seconds. I don't know about that.
You can get it in 50. Yeah, maybe. I remember this level, though. I mean, these are like actual levels from the game.
Right. And that was the neat thing about this from a story perspective. Like, this cartridge was running, and the competition was running at Blockbuster before the full game came out. Dang it.
Right. Yeah.
So this was like people's first preview.
Yeah, right. This is the first chance for people to experience Donkey Kong Country.
Right.
That was a big deal.
And they only got 5 minutes at a time, you know?
Can you imagine?
So it's kind of neat that they had all 8 levels in there, because you'd think they would not want to have the full taste of every, core aspect of the game available, but they did.
Can you imagine though?
And 1 and 0, and there we go.
But like,
and then it just sticks there. It just stays there.
Oh, weird. There's no buttons you can press to.
I mean, I can get a view here, like hitting start, select.
What if you like press a series of buttons?
I don't know. Can you look it up and see if there's something you can do?
Yeah, all right.
Score and stuff.
But what I'm trying to get at is, like, can you imagine being a kid and like this is your first chance of like experiencing this game? I feel like I would have been at Blockbuster every day.
I know, right? Tell me about it.
Like, I would have just
about it.
All right, hold on. I'm looking stuff up. Go ahead and play it again.
All right.
Is Alberto still here?
I think so. Yeah. Let me We got more people watching now too. So, he is here, but we got to let him in. He must have dropped out. There you are.
Sorry, I think I got disconnected.
Any questions from people?
Were you able to watch any of that, Alberto? Were you following that at all?
Yeah, no. I was able to watch all of it up until the point that right now where it got frozen.
Right, and here's the interesting thing too: the game itself is frozen. Point score there, but Andrew's favorite part, it moved on to the next level and was playing the next song.
Yeah.
In the game's rotation. So,
right,
like, I don't know what I'd be so fascinated to find out the story behind the programming of this.
Yeah.
Like when they were figuring out what to do and what not to do, what to add and what not to add for this kind of a experience, you know?
All right. So I'm reading from SNES Central. I'm reading from the top here. It says the Donkey Kong Country competition cartridge was used in the PowerFest 94 championship finals, as well as in the Blockbuster World Video Game Championship 2, 1995 as a qualifier.
Wow, I suck.
The carts were sold in Nintendo Power subscription catalog. Since only a limited amount of these were produced, it's a rarity. The Donkey Kong Country cartridge is a special timed version of DKC where you have 5 minutes to collect as many points as possible. It was first used in the finals of PowerFest 94, a week before the release of Donkey Kong Country in stores.
There we go. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Blockbuster Video carried the Blockbuster World Video Game Championship 2, which is after Star Fox, which was sponsored by Game Pro Magazine, Acclaim, Marvel Comics, and Nintendo. There was also a Genesis competition cartridge for this tournament.
No way. What?
It featured NBA Tournament Jam Tournament Edition and Judge Dredd.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, okay.
And only 4 or 5 copies are confirmed to exist of that.
How many?
4 to 5.
Oh my gosh.
So that's like crazy rare. The people with the top scores from both of these carts went on to compete in the World Championship. All right, reading
Andrew,
on.
you know the answer to this. How do you throw Diddy Kong up? How do you do that?
You can't in Donkey Kong 1.
Shut up.
No, it's only in 2.
What?
Because 2
I'm like, I burned like 2.5 minutes of my time.
Yeah, no, like,
trying to friggin' do that.
No, because 2 added the piggyback.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to playing.
Yeah. 2 added where you can like piggyback and throw the person.
That's my favorite one then. Not
Oh,
the first
yeah,
one. The second one's my favorite.
2 is the best of the
2 is definitely
Yeah.
the key one here.
All right, so reading on here, it says after the competition ended, the carts were sold through Nintendo's Super Power Supplies catalog. The cart came in a plastic green rental style box. The box.
Oh, dang, look at that. It just added 50 points to the score against Kong.
Nice.
Looked like it was 50 points at least. I think it's 50 points.
Okay.
You're right, Andrew. Grabbing all the letters, it doesn't do anything grabbing them individually, but once you get all of them, it adds
Right.
a lot to your score. That's cool.
So it said the cart came in a plastic green rental style box. The box states that the highest score from the Nintendo Pros were 3,641. The box also says only 2,500 copies were made, making this one of the rarest official Super Nintendo releases. The cart label itself looks pretty much like a Donkey Kong Country cart, except the corner has a display saying competition cartridge.
I'm going to try and add it onto this thing so I get a better view here.
The top of the label has a display saying competition cartridge. I'm sorry. The top of the label has a display saying resale/rental of the game pack is prohibited, which you can show that again if you want. That is exactly what the cartridge says. I'm not sure if you're still there or not, but if you want to show that, go for it. The game is highly sought after by Super Nintendo collectors, and it fetches the highest price of any game, is what this thing says. Copies with the box usually sell for more than, well, this is quite a while ago, $500.
I'm still here. Sorry.
We got some feedback. Okay.
We all work with audio stuff. It was really fun to experience feedback together as a trio.
It was fun to yeah. Okay, so going on, this says the Blockbuster World Video Game Championship happened during the summer of 1995 with over 300,000 people participating around the world. The preliminary rounds occurred in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Mexico, New Zealand, United Kingdom, United States, and Venezuela. Blockbuster, on the other hand, held the preliminaries in June and July of 1995. Winners at the store level were given a year's worth of free game rentals, while all participants got trading cards. Interestingly, in the guide to the tournament in the June 1995 issue of GamePro, the editors were obviously not given the actual competition cartridge, and it shows screens from levels not in the special version. The finals were held in San Francisco. The finals happened on August 21st at Planet Hollywood and were broadcast by local TV stations. 11 people competed in the event. The representatives from both the Super Nintendo and the Genesis categories were representatives with both the Super Nintendo and Genesis categories. The participants came from the United States, England, Argentina, and Australia. And the games included the preliminary rounds of NBA Live, Kirby's Avalanche, and Zoop.
So that's your original esports right there.
I mean, that was basically esports in the 90s.
Yeah. And the occasional Nickelodeon show, which were awesome.
All right, so here's some really like nitty-gritty stuff about this actual cartridge. This version of it, there is a point counter with a 5-minute time limit. Once the 5 minutes are up, the game literally freezes, which is what we just saw. So that the judge can record the score.
There we go.
And the game must.
So it's not digitally saved on the cartridge, Andrew. I don't think it is.
Well, hold on, just a second. Let me keep reading. But I think that you're right.
I'm pretty sure that it was like records that were written down by everybody. I'm guessing.
But I'm wondering, why is there a battery then?
For keeping time and stuff. I mean, it still needs that. You know,
don't need a battery for a timer.
I think so, because I mean, like Pokemon Silver stopped telling you day and night cycles once the battery dried out.
That's exactly right. But it's still playable. It's still playable, but as far as like keeping track of time and score and all of that, like the timer specifically, I'm wondering if, and this again goes back to like, I wonder about the programming side of things, if they need the battery because in order to keep the rest of the game from being accessed and for the timer to actually freeze the game on time.
I don't think the rest of the game is on there. I don't think the whole game is on there.
Well, no, obviously not in its entirety as the original release was, because it doesn't have the map or menu or anything like that. But as far as like actually stopping the game at a certain time, that's something that at that point in time that probably needs power in order to keep track of that.
But like, so you're saying if the battery died, it's no longer going to do that?
Probably.
Okay, let me keep reading here.
Yeah, that's my guess. From
That's
like
my
a
guess,
programming
too.
perspective, that's my guess, is that it needs that.
That's
So
my
it's
guess too, because I had Pokemon Ruby. I know I keep saying Pokemon, but that's just my experience with time cartridges. Pokemon Ruby, I couldn't plant any more berries and do the day-to-day cycle, but I could still
Alberto,
save my game.
Yep, I had the blue one, and I had to replace the battery for that.
Yeah.
Available.
So I definitely am thinking it's the same thing. The battery is there just for the sake of time. I mean, otherwise I would have kept planting more berries the whole time, but I could still save my game. It's interesting.
Like in my like understanding of how NES and Super Nintendo games worked, the only reason why you had a battery was to like actually save data.
Mm-hmm.
But that's for most situations for consumer products, Andrew. There's other reasons why things need a battery.
All right. Well, let me keep reading. Let me keep reading here. Maybe
keeping track, having the circuit board keep track of time for any reason at this point in, you know, computer history, if you want to call it that, needed power, because they didn't have, you know, like nowadays you got solid state drives and all kinds of chips that, like, they've figured out ways to make sure that all of that stuff is saved and no power is needed, right? So
let me keep
back
reading.
then that wasn't the case.
Let me see if I can find anything else. It says in the guide for the competition in GamePro, it says there are 8 levels. I mean, this has nothing to do with saving, but we'll keep reading. 8 levels. However, there are a few. Oh, here's something you might not know. There are a few extra ones if you cheat to stop the timer.
Wait, what?
It says right here, there are extra levels. However, if you cheat to stop the timer. And
how do you do that?
Well, it says in parentheses, the game freezes once you pass Octopus Chase, which is the last level.
Oh, so that's like you got to get all the way there in 5 minutes in order to be able to, quote, break the game.
Yep. So it says,
I'm not doing that.
It says,
that's not happening.
I could
do that. That's not gonna happen.
I could probably do it. All right. It
You
says
probably could. You need to come down here and make it happen.
I'll bring a real Super Nintendo, make it happen. So it says, with the timer on, you can only get the very start of the 8 levels. And even then, you pretty much have to play it perfectly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can tell that for sure. And it is only the first level or the first part of every level.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It says if you want to freeze a timer, you can use a pro action replay, and there's a cheat number.
Pro action replay? What is that?
I think it's like it's kind of like a Game Genie.
Oh, okay.
You put that in first, then you put your card in. So the first level is Jungle Hijinks, and then Reptile Rumble, then Ropey Rampage, then Coral Capers, then Winky's Walkway, Bouncy Bananas, Orangutan Gang, Snow Barrel Blast, Slip Slide Ride.
There it is, a 0.
There you go. Ice Age Alley, and then Croctopus Case. This guy says that his best personal run is getting to the start of Orangutan Gang. There is a YouTube video that shows a person getting to the start of Snow Barrel Blast, which is still only 5 out of the 8 levels.
I wonder if anybody like on record ever actually.
Well, here's a really interesting thing. This is a breakdown of your points, okay?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let me know what to go after here. That's
so every banana is 1 point. A bunch of banana is 10 points. If you get a Kong letter, just one letter, it's 10 points. If you get
it is giving me points then. Okay. Yep. I didn't think it was.
If you get all of the Kong letters, it's 100 points.
Oh, it was 100. I miscounted then. I thought it was 50, but all right.
If you get a 1-up, it's 10 points. If you get a 2-up, it's 50 points. If you get a 3-up, it's 100 points. Breaking a barrel is 10 points. Getting a save barrel is 10 points.
So, dude, they're giving you points for like friggin' everything.
Oh yeah, no, you just went into a secret room. Going into a secret room is 50 points.
Nice. All right.
The biggest thing is completing a level. Completing a level is 250 points.
Oh, nice. All right. Well,
Ramby
off to a better start than I normally was.
Ramby box is 10 points. Engard, which is like the fish, the swordfish.
Yeah.
I don't know why this has this on here, but it says 0 points.
0 points, but you can do it.
Winky box is 10 points. Espresso box is 10 points. Critter is 10 points. Clump is 10 points. Clap trap is 10 points.
Those are all the bosses you can face, right? Or just
I don't know.
Or is that like the names of the enemies or something?
I think
you're the one that knows this game, so.
Well, yeah, these sound like names of enemies. But espresso is like the espresso is the ostrich.
Oh, dang! I suck at this game.
Okay, so Slippa is 10 points. Zinger is 35. That's like the bees. Army is 10 points. Bite size.
What ones are worth the most?
A Zinger.
So the bees.
Completing a level is 250.
As far as like enemies to kill, though, it sounds like the bees are worth the most.
Oh yeah, for sure. 35 points. Everything else is like 10 points.
Oh, all right.
Literally everything that you beat. Okay, going on. It says, for the most part, the levels in the competition cart are identical to the ones in the standard release. The treehouse and Banana Horde cave rooms at the start of the Jingle Hijinks were disabled, which we already showed. It says, presumably due to the time waste it would go to going in there. Animal tokens were mostly removed. If you've ever played the first Donkey Kong Country, you know about the animal tokens, and if you collect 3 of the same token, you get a special bonus round, which is...
Well, here's the interesting thing, too. When I die and I go back to the checkpoint,
yeah,
I can recollect the bananas and re-kill the enemies. So, like...
It might be an advantage to do that.
If you can find the right sweet spot, if you're going for a high score, it might be advantageous to not beat the level if you get the right spot to just loop over and over and over.
Although remember, beating the level, you get 250 points.
Right, 250. I know, but like if there's a key spot in the game,
sure,
where it's again, I'm trying to think like a speedrunner here. To get the high score, if there's a part where literally it's like it's too difficult or it's too much of a risk or whatever to try and move on to the next level, and you can get way more points guaranteed by just rocking one part over and over and over, then maybe that's what would be beneficial, you know? So.
The last thing I got on here is it says, let's see. It says, without cheating, it is impossible to actually collect enough tokens to get to the bonus rounds.
Really?
If you use the freeze timer cheat, you can get the tokens, but entering a bonus round resets your score. So if you go into a bonus round, you're resetting your score.
Oh, dang. No way.
Yep. And then the last thing here is the summary. The Donkey Kong Country competition cartridge is an interesting.
I get to the end of the level.
Oh, can you do it? Nope. 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 It's an interesting.
That's the best score I've gotten, though. That is definitely the best score I've gotten.
It's an interesting piece of video game history. It was produced in small quantities, making it heavily sought after for video game collectors. The Blockbuster World Video Game Cartridge 2 was a major video game competition that was not really been replicated since, and it was neat that Nintendo released the competition cartridge afterwards. The scoring system would have made for an interesting game mode in the standard release. That would have been amazing if they had room to do that. You'd think they probably could have too, because it had all the original assets, obviously, on the cartridge. But all right, now I'm going to play. That's kind of the information I got. Play the reproduction one real quick, and sure. If we notice any major differences. Anyway, what were you saying there, Andrew? I'm just going to look up if there's any information about the battery for the Donkey Kong Country. I mean, that looks the same to me, yeah. Right. It's the exact same.
I was going to say that while you're booting everything up, I got to get going. It is 12:30 in the a.m.
Yeah. Is it 12:30 almost? Damn. Yeah, we should probably call it.
But I like just watching just his Donkey Kong documentary going on, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, right? We're going to have to unpack this a little bit more.
And this is where I'm like, okay, people don't want $2,000.
But I can totally understand not wanting to spend $2,000 to do this.
Yeah, but like they want to experience the original, like
spend $30 to be able to play it on an original Super Nintendo. Yeah.
That's right. No problem with it. Just as long as showing themselves as like.
And let's be honest. In most situations, if you're finding something for like, you're finding something like this for $30.
Yeah.
It's a reproduction, which is why I was like extremely skeptical when I found that one for $15. I was like, I don't know about this.
But like, it's totally.
It seems like it's definitely legit, which still boggles my mind, but
yeah,
I'll take it.
What boggles my mind the most came from a video game store.
What was that?
What boggles my mind the most is that it came from a video game store.
Right, a store that definitely has a record of knowing their stuff too. So like.
Yeah,
it's kind of.
It could have been like me. You just could have gotten the young rookie with the crew.
Right. All righty. Well, I'm gonna probably call it a night here too.
Go.
Should I finish this match?
I mean,
3-minute countdown.
Go for it.
I'm gonna try and beat my last score.
I don't think
I don't think I will either.
Get that beat.
Oh, dang it. I tried to.
Is the echo coming from Dan's phone onto like the TV or something?
Is it me? Am I echoing?
Well, let me try it. Oh, yeah. I think so, because Andrew had himself muted.
I think that is.
I'm not hearing any echo on my end, so. Just got that superpower, dude.
I've been muting myself this whole time.
There we go. There's the second Kong. Dude, I can totally see this being huge with speedrunners if it was more readily available.
Yeah.
Like speedrunners who try to get to the end, speedrunners who try to glitch it and go as far as they can, and then other speedrunners that are like, nope, it's all about getting the high score. What's the most efficient way to get the highest score in 5 minutes?
Totally. Yeah.
You know, like not necessarily speed running per se because it's guaranteed 5 minutes, but the way the game was intended to be played, what's the best way to get the highest possible score in 5 minutes? Like that's a unique way of tackling this kind of a game, you know?
And does this feel different?
What was that?
Does this feel different?
Does it feel different
than
playing the original?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it does.
No.
I'm saying the repro.
Oh no, not at all. I thought you were just talking about playing the game this way compared to the original. I'd say it plays very differently because that timer is like everything.
Right.
You know, that definitely changes things. But having a timer and a score counter like that is I missed the K. Dang it. No, the repro is playing exactly the same. Exactly the same. I would not know any different.
This makes you wonder, like, why is the other one worth $2,000?
Oh yeah, right. Well, it's a collector thing, right? People want the original and a collector of something that there's very few of.
Right.
So, it's like well, I mean, again, this kind of gets to the conversation of art in general. There's the end of my timer, but like it's the difference between people who collect original pieces versus people who just like the look of it and want to have it in their home. You know,
Right.
Like if you like this concept of Donkey Kong and you want to just have it so you can enjoy playing it, drop $20-$30 and get a reproduction cartridge of it and play it on your Super Nintendo at home. You know, and it is a hell of a lot of fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a fan of Donkey Kong nearly to the extent that Andrew is, and probably Alberto, but I'm having a lot of fun with a 5-minute countdown here. But
it's a new challenge.
Right, it's a whole nother way of looking at the game. Totally different. And there is a learning curve. There's a what am I trying to say? A difficulty curve that goes with it that adds a whole nother level of thinking about how to do better. Because before it was like, it's all about just beating the game.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about beating the level to get to the next level and then beating that level and that bad guy to get to the next level. This is totally different.
Yeah. I'm playing Super Mario. Sorry. New Super Mario on Switch. And there's a challenge. And there's just random challenges. Hey, Albert, are you muted?
Alberto's muted, yeah.
It must be. I'm hearing wicked.
I'm gonna turn my volume down. Maybe that's throwing it off.
Maybe.
There.
No, it's just, it's all right. I was just trying to say, like, oh, now it's fine. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I hear no feedback.
Once he muted himself, there's no problem. Anyway, I was just saying that, like, I'm playing Donkey Kong or not. I'm playing New Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on the Switch, and there's like challenge modes on it where it's not beating the game. It's just like really short, quick challenges. And it kind of reminds me of this a little bit, where it's a built-in thing in the game, but it's like a challenge mode where, it's like go through this level and don't collect any coins throughout the whole level. So it's like it's a normal Mario level, but instead of going through it normally, you have to go through it and not collect any coins. And so this kind of reminds me of that a little bit, where it's not necessary for beating the game, but it's just kind of another fun thing. So, yeah. Now whatever you swap,
yeah,
audio is fine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I went away from my phone and went back to the computer. That's probably what was going on.
But yeah, like I've got a couple challenges left.
Was it doing that the entire time I was over there?
Yeah, I just tried to not talk.
You should have said something, dude.
I thought that it was either Alberto or me.
Say something, because that probably sounded real crappy.
Yeah, all right. Well, sorry everybody who's hanging out. But yeah, so I'm going through that on my Switch right now. Where like I'm trying to 100% New Super Mario Brothers Deluxe on the Switch. And I've pretty much gone through the campaign of both regular Mario and Luigi version of it. Now I'm just like beating the challenge mode. And yeah, like this kind of reminds me of like this is a whole different way to play the same game.
Right. And honestly, I do feel like the experience of let me close out my phone here so that doesn't throw anyone else off again. Like the experience of, like, for example, when we're looking at like the Nintendo competitions and Nickelodeon would have like those, like that was always all about like how much of a high score can you get in a certain amount of time,
right?
Like they were always like that. And nobody ever played the games like that in their home, because that was never the purpose of the game. Which
is what this challenge mode is like.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
On New Super Mario Brothers.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
And it very much reminds me of like the experience of going to the original arcades.
Yeah. That's what I'm getting out of this challenge mode. Like
genuinely, what's the highest score you can get off of one quarter or whatever.
Yes.
That's what it feels like. And I love that. I love being able to do that.
That's why I'm like, okay, I went through the whole campaign of both modes.
Yeah.
But I'm really getting my money's worth out of this game from this challenge mode, because it's, beat the game, like beat the level in under 60 seconds. So it's not about how many coins you can collect or how many enemies you can kill, but it's like, how can I just speed run this level as fast as possible? Like, there's a whole mode of like every single level is just beating it as fast as possible. And there's a bronze, silver, and gold level, right?
Oh, cool.
That kind of like breathes whole new life into that game. And so that's kind of with this competition cartridge,
it kind of that makes you feel like we do need to wrap it up. We've been doing this for 2.5 hours. Holy shit, 2.5 hours. It's been fun chatting, and it's been fun showing you guys that, but I really want to have you guys over and we can do an actual competition.
That'd be fun.
Would be a hell of a lot of fun. And maybe do another episode where we're just breaking down and giving like our thoughts and opinions on some of these reproduction and hacked versions of these games. What was it that you called it again, Alberto? It wasn't a remaster, it was a demaster. Is that what you said? Demaster, like that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think it'd be fun to kind of talk through some of that stuff at some point.
Yeah,
and show examples of them. And
yeah, there's modern games that are like The Mummy. You remember when The Mummy came out with like Tom Cruise?
The real Tom Cruise is a real shitty movie. Yeah,
it was a bad movie, but there was a demastered Metroid.
It's like a Metroidvania run, right? Yeah, I've heard it's really good.
I just played through the whole thing last week, and I loved it.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
We
will come back around and tackle a lot of this again, more in depth in future conversations. But Alberto, thanks for chiming in, dude. It's so great to see you.
Yeah, really good to see you.
No, of course.
And chat with you.
Hopefully next time it's a little bit earlier where I'm not too sleepy.
I know.
Yeah, we started pretty late in the evening, so
we did start this thing a little late, and it is entirely my fault being a dad and
no.
put my kid to bed. The whole deal. So
I mean, if you told me 12 o'clock, maybe like a year and a half ago, I say that's when the night gets started.
I know, right?
Now, yeah,
dude,
now
that's the sign of you getting older.
Yeah, I know.
Whenever someone's like, "Hey, maybe we can meet up at like 9 or 10 and get started," I'm like, "PM? Like what?
Yeah, I know.
That's when
I'm
like 10." It's like when I'm thinking of getting done with something, I want to go home and be in bed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for doing this, dude.
No, of course. In short, my only two things for the ROM stuff: A, it should never cost more than the original price that the game first came out as.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
And then 2, my personal budget limit, $40. Anything over 40, especially with the way games are now, $70 each. I'm like, dang, I'm halfway to a brand new great adventure like God of War, or like the new Spider-Man when it comes out, or anything of that sort.
Especially if you're wanting to like experience it and actually play it.
Yes, yeah.
So like,
I'm like, as much as I
if it's that expensive, like for example, this one, I got the reproduction cartridge so that I wouldn't have to risk ruining the original one, but I can still experience playing the reproduction one. So
enter me spending like $100 on a retro video game. Okay.
I'd rather not do that and buy a reproduction for cheaper so I can experience it and not feel bad if I broke it.
I would rather spend $100. I would rather spend $100 on a game now than $70 on a game that is going to become $15 in like 8 months from now.
In like 8 to 10 months, yeah, I could see that too.
I would rather wait,
which is what most people are doing.
I would rather
dropping, $80 on a pack of V-Bucks on Fortnite that are going to be worthless the moment you drop.
I would rather wait 8 to 10 months and buy the same game, and instead spend that money on a game that is no longer in production.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's your personal preference. I know it's all right. You can be wrong. We'll let you be wrong. It's all right.
I'll keep playing the 4K remasters.
There we go. Sounds good. All right. Well, have a great night, guys. We will see you again soon. Thanks again, everyone, for watching.
Peace.
Have a good night.